Welcome, everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen, and today I have with me Kaylin. Kaylin, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Excited to learn some tips and tricks for traveling with a toddler and some uh, tips on how to use points and miles to get some deals on travel, which I know you're an expert in both of those, so it should be fun.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's start. Just kind of give the listeners a little bit of background on you and how you came to start this party of three travel.
Sure. So I have been traveling myself since I was young. My dad worked abroad, so travel has always been a really important part of my lifestyle. And then met my husband who does not or had not traveled a ton before. So I got super into like planning travel for the two of us, and we really bonded over that. And we got to travel to some amazing places. And then we had our daughter. And a lot of what's out there is just basically telling parents that you're going to have to put your travel dreams on hold when you
Mhm.
have kids, just because it's really hard to travel with them. And that made me kind of sad because, I didn't want to give up these amazing experiences that we've had. So we've just done a lot of travel with our daughter, and I wanted to share that on our Instagram account, just to help other parents realize that it's not over. You can keep
Yeah,
traveling. Travel might look a little different once you have kids, but you can still kind of make those memories and share those experiences with your kids from a very young age until they're older. And so I also got into points and miles last year um, during the pandemic. I just had a lot of time on my hands. So I did some research into points and miles, and again, just didn't see a ton of content out there for families and how
Mhm.
to kind of use points and miles to make family travel happen. Yeah, that's why I started that Instagram account, was just to share that with families. So it kind of is a combination of like, you can do this, you can travel. Here are some tips to make it a little bit easier. And then also, if you're interested in points and miles, here's how we make that work for our family.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I think you bring up a really good point. Something that has always kind of annoyed me, I guess, is that everyone who I talk to is like, oh yeah, travel while you're young and you don't have kids because when you do, you're not gonna be able to travel at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just always rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, yeah, it may be more difficult in some aspects, but I think you can travel, and I see a lot of families do it. And so I'm really excited to just hear your thoughts on that too, because obviously you're doing it and it looks amazing from what I've seen on Instagram.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely got a lot of that commentary when I was pregnant. They were saying like, "Oh no, this is it," and I was so
Yeah.
sad to hear that. So yeah, so we've made it work. But like you said, it does look different. And it even amongst I follow a few other family travel Instagrams, and even amongst us, it looks different. So it's all about kind of how you can make it work for your family and your travel style.
Yeah, definitely. So, what was when before you had your child? How much were you traveling, and what did that travel kind of look like? And then how has it changed since having your child?
Yeah, so we were big budget travelers. We just kind of we subscribed to Scott's Cheap Flights, so it's a
Mhm.
little plug there. And we just let the destination kind of pick our travel for us. So we've done a lot of just things across the United States, just me and my husband, but and then we've also been to Europe a few times, and the travel was very cheap in that we definitely like cut corners. We got super cheap flights, red eyes, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
which has changed for us now that which is also kind of why I got into points and miles too, is um, we travel more now with now that we have our daughter, just because um, we are able to use the points and miles in combination with the cheap flights. But we also like we don't do red eyes anymore. We learned that the hard way that my daughter does not sleep on planes very well. So we have to look for like maybe more expensive flights this time around.
Hmm.
to kind of work for our schedule. But I know lots of families with kids that just sleep right through the flights. I'm very jealous, but that's not
Yeah,
our our reality.
I wish I could sleep
Um,
through the flight.
I know, I know. I never sleep through flights, so of course, I feel like I
Yeah.
passed that along. Maybe my husband will be out cold next to me. I'm very jealous.
Oh man.
Um, but yeah, so we used to travel maybe like twice a year, and now we're doing like 2 or 3 big trips a year, and then lots of like smaller, across the United States trips as well.
Hmm. Very cool. That's kind of interesting that you're actually traveling more now.
I know. I think it's the allure of like just wanting to share the world with our family. Like I think that's
Mhm.
been a huge motivator to me is just seeing new places through her eyes has been made me want to keep traveling more and more and more, which has been super cool.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how old is your daughter?
So she is 4.
Okay.
So she just turned 4.
Okay. So kind of at that age where she's probably understanding things and able to have a little bit of control over herself, but still you're still taking care of her, still making sure she's getting where she needs to go.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's been interesting to see the development from when she was an infant when we first started traveling to now as like a preschooler, I guess. And she definitely like she packs for herself for the most part. I definitely have the final say on what comes.
Yeah.
But she's a travel pro now. She knows basically exactly what to expect at airports and on planes and everything. We That makes me think of we balance how to plan our trips with kind of providing her some choice in addition
Mhm.
to us as the parents having some choice. And so that kind of invests her in the trips too, which has been kind of fun to see.
Yeah, I'm curious. I know you had a few different posts about your Disney Wish cruise. I'm guessing she
Yes.
had some say in that one.
Yes, that was 100% for her. We yes, so we just got back. Well, I guess not just got back, but we did the Disney Wish Maritime cruise over Thanksgiving, and that was. I mean, secretly, I'm also a Disney fan. In fact, I'm taking a solo trip to Disneyland in a few weeks just because I
Oh,
love
nice.
Disney too. But yeah, so that was maybe a combo for her and I. But yeah, that was a great trip to take with young kids. I would say even like upper elementary aged kids too, because it's so kid friendly. Like there's no
Mhm.
nothing has not been thought of, I guess, to like make it easy for families. The rooms are super friendly. They have a big blackout curtain between the adult bed and the kid bed. So when your kid falls asleep early, you can still watch TV and read and all that fun
Oh,
stuff.
nice.
There's, yes, just like those little touches. There's kids clubs. So we could drop her off and then spend some time by the pool or go on like the adult slide, just the two of us, and then they would just message us whenever she was ready to leave.
Huh.
And yeah, so and then on the like dining rooms, the waiters remembered her order. She got to have apple juice, which was very exciting for her. Every night there would just be like a cup of apple juice waiting for her at the dining table. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's very expensive, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, yeah. What were some of the highlights from that trip?
Sure. Meeting the characters. So when you're at Disney World, and I assume Disneyland, I'll find out in a couple weeks. They You have to wait in line forever to meet characters, and it's kind of a hit or miss whether they're going to be there. But on the cruise, they're just out walking about all day long, and you just get to go up to them and meet them and talk to them, which was a huge highlight for my kid who loves meeting characters. I know not every kid is a big fan, but and then
Yeah.
the other highlight is Disney's private islands that you visit in the Bahamas if you're taking a Bahamas or Caribbean cruise. It's called Castaway Cay, and it is so stunning. But they also have a kids club on the island. So
Oh,
we
wow.
dropped it's just like they build sandcastles all day in this sand pit. It's great. So we dropped her off there, and then we had, just a few hours to like swim and snorkel and stuff. So it was gorgeous, and the food is great. which is also helpful.
Yeah, yeah, no, it looked amazing from what I saw on Instagram. It looks like a ton of fun, and I could see like, specifically with younger kids, that's got to be a dream trip for them.
For sure. We're actually trying to plan another one next year. We'll see. Um, it's one of those things when you travel with kids, there's so many decisions that you need to make, which for
Mhm.
a planner like myself can be fun, part of the fun. But it's just when you go on a cruise, I would assume this is the way with other cruises as well, but at least for a Disney cruise, there's just, you don't have to plan anything. Your meals are planned for you, the pool time is planned for you. Everything is just there.
Yeah,
And so it's really a vacation for adults too, which normally when you're traveling with kids, it's not as much of a vacation for the adults as much as the
yeah,
kids. So,
yeah.
so that's a nice way to do it. And we made it cheaper because we used points and miles for the flights there and back. So we flew from Denver to Orlando, and then we stayed in a hotel the night before the cruise, all on points. So it's just a way to make it a little bit less of a dent to your pocketbook.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm sure with the cruise and all that, that can't be a cheap trip. So I'm curious with the points and miles, how did you start getting into that, and what kind of tips and tricks do you have for people?
Sure. So I actually kind of fell into it. I was just doing some research on, I was starting a new position where I was going to be using a credit card to do some business purchases. And I was trying to just figure out like how to make the most of that, and fell into points and miles. The first like course or group that I ran into was 10x travel, and they're great because they have like a Facebook group as well that's super supportive, and you can ask all kinds of questions, and they'll really get like into the nitty gritty of it. And so yeah, so it's been about, oh my gosh, it hasn't even, has it been, it's been a little bit over a year since I first started, um, like really ramping up my points and miles earnings. And I guess the biggest tip and trick I have is to start with a flexible currency for points, which
Mhm.
basically means like either Chase or Capital One or Amex. Those cards are going to earn you points that you can transfer to other specific airlines or specific hotels. They call them transfer partners.
Okay.
Um, and I know you've had other points people on the podcast, but that's
Mhm.
like that's where everyone starts. I started with the Chase Sapphire Preferred card for that reason, because I can transfer those points to Hyatt for hotels, for example. Denver is a United hub, so I transferred to there. Um, and once you apply, obviously you get you have to make sure you hit your sign up bonus. So you have to make sure you spend the amount
Mhm.
required to get those points. And then that's after I had kind of gotten all of the amount of flexible points that I wanted, is when I started, like, I have a United card because of the fact that I do a lot of our flights out of Denver, which ends up being United.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems like with those, like the Chase, and the Amex and stuff like that, it's nice to have that flexibility of, oh, I want to go on or transfer it to this hotel or go on this airline, and it might not be the same one every time. So you have that flexibility of going on different with different companies essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, because when we went to the Big Island a few years ago, and then we went to Maui last year, and both of those it ended up being a great deal to fly out on United and then fly back on Southwest. So
Mhm.
we were able to transfer points to both of those airlines, which was super helpful to get us there and back.
Yeah, yeah, that's really nice. Um, I guess with the points and miles, is there any like research you have to do in terms of like I guess how am I trying to say this? Like with certain dates that maybe you can't fly with those points or those miles or different,
Yeah, that's a
blackout
great
dates or things
question.
like that.
Yeah. So there's not like explicit blackout dates, but each hotel and airline will have what they call award availability. So
Mhm.
you do have to kind of check to see if they're going to have the points options, because what they'll either not offer it, like, so for example, we're going to Puerto Rico in March, and the
Uh,
hotel that we really wanted to go to was it's a Hyatt, but it wasn't available on one of the days of our trips,
oh
unfortunately.
no.
So because they just aren't offering award availability for that specific date. So either they're like, it might be high season and there's just a bunch of people willing to pay cash, or they may have like a very specific amount of like award bookings that they're willing to give out, and those might have just been gone. We do, so what I do for airlines is I will look on the Google flights. I'll look at cheap cash flights, and then I'll go on to like the United website or the Southwest website or the American Airlines website, and I will look to specifically see like what those points would be for that flight.
Mhm.
And usually, if it's a cheap cash fare, it's probably also going to be a really low amount of points as well, which is what we look
Yeah.
for, because you can spend like 100,000 points flying across the United States, which is not a good use of points.
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of learn what to expect for point value.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things I've learned in talking with the different people about points and miles is don't waste it on, some short flight or, inside the US necessarily. Use it on those bigger trips kind of thing. So that's where you're going to get more bang for your buck.
Exactly. Yep. And that's what we do. We tend to book last minute, which is not necessarily always recommended for when you're traveling with kids, but we tend to book a little bit last minute, and we will just mix cash fares with points fares, just because it helps us travel more. So I know a
Yeah.
lot of people, once they get into points and miles, are like, only points and miles. That's the only way to travel. And we just mix it up. So if it's super cheap to fly cash, we're just going to do that and save our points for the hotel or something like that.
hmm Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I've used in my own personal travels. I feel like that works the best for getting the most travel overall.
Exactly.
Um, so I'm curious with I'm looking through your Instagram right now, which you have really cool pictures on here in Reels. So I think everyone
Thanks.
should go check it out. But I'm curious. You guys went to Iceland. It looks like with your daughter. What was that like? Traveling internationally with a child.
So we actually did not go with our daughter to
Oh, you did not.
Iceland.
Okay.
Yeah, that was our first solo parent, trip without her. So she actually stayed with my parents for that week,
Okay.
um, which I also am a big proponent of, because we bonded. Like, my husband and I bonded over travel, and so it's
Mhm.
also super important for parents to take that time away too. It was very nerve wracking, even though she was with my parents. It was very nerve wracking traveling internationally without her, but it ended up being so fun. She had a great time, spoiled rotten with ice cream and,
I'm sure.
yeah, exactly. And then we just had a really fun time, just like being the two of us again without,
Mhm.
like the responsibilities of parenting. So I would highly recommend parents to travel, just the two of you, and then also go to Iceland, because
Yeah.
it's one of the most beautiful places. I know you've been there for, I think you said 24 or 36 hours or something.
hmm
Um, it's, oh my gosh. I wish I
Yeah.
could just go over and over and over again. It's so beautiful.
It's a magical place for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. So was that the first time that you were really like that separated from your
Yes.
daughter?
Yes. It was our first solo trip without her. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure a little nerve wracking and everything to be that far away from her.
Yes. Yeah, one thing I will suggest is to get, depending on your state, to get a power of attorney for whoever is taking care of
Mhm.
your kid while you're gone. Just because if there was a medical emergency, it's just a little bit of extra reassurance that whoever is taking care of them can make like medical decisions. So that's just maybe
Yeah, that's
one
smart.
tip
I didn't
about.
think about that.
Yeah, I think my neighbor suggested it, and I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. So we did.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So with being in the airport, you said your daughter's an expert now at the airport. What kind of challenges and growing pains have you gone through with bringing her to the airport?
Sure. So I mentioned this earlier, but we learned that red eye flights do not work for us
Yeah.
because she doesn't sleep and I don't sleep. And then we just arrive at our destination very cranky.
Hmm.
And so we've just learned not to do that. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of families that does work for. So you just kind of have to figure out what's best for your family. Um, Originally, we did when we first started, sleeping in hotels was really hard, just because of she could see us and it was super exciting for her to kind of see us and she wouldn't sleep. So we just for when she was little, or I guess she's still little, but when she was littler, we ended up going to many Airbnbs for that reason.
Okay.
Now she's like, a hotel is no problem. So again, it's just those like growing pains of learning what works for you and your specific family situation,
Mhm.
and schedule changes. So that is always really hard. It's hard for everyone. I feel like, I mean, we all saw what happened with Southwest this past month.
Yeah.
It's awful when a flight gets canceled or delayed or whatever, but it's definitely a little bit harder when you have kids. So my recommendation for that is just over prepare. So if you think you're only going to be traveling for, 6 hours or whatever, make sure you pack enough food, enough bottles, enough diapers, for twice that amount of time, because if a flight gets delayed and you run out of diapers, like that's a really tough
Yeah.
situation.
Not a good
Um,
situation.
yeah, yeah, it's hard on everybody around you too. So I think just over preparing, and like I said, it just gets easier every time. We're out of diapers now, so we don't have to pack those anymore. But when we were in, we just always packed twice as many as we thought we would need.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I think it's always good to be over prepared.
Hmm.
Especially with a young kid. You never know what's going to happen with the travel. I mean, delays are like inevitable in this day and age. So it's good to have a little bit extra there. I'm curious with the you recently posted about the ear pain. I
Hmm.
know this is always an issue for kids. Um,
Yes.
how have you combated that? And is she old enough to kind of understand what's happening with that now?
Yes. So she is old enough now where, and also she's flown so many times that she kind of knows the drill of like chewing and yawning and swallowing and just making sure her ears pop.
Hmm.
Kids like ear tubes are much shorter than adults, and so they're much more prone to ear pain. And then they also just don't help themselves. Like we,
Yeah.
we kind of chew and yawn and everything. So yeah, so when she was very little, when she was an infant, I used to either I would try to wait until we were taking off to give her her bottle, just to kind of force that swallow reaction.
Hmm.
And then now that she's older, one of my tips that I was going to share is that travel is really, for adults as well as kids, is survival mode. Like you really just need to get through the day.
Yeah.
When you're flying, it's awful for everybody, we all know that. So she gets a lot of fruit gummies and apple juice when she's when she's flying now, which again kind of forces that chewing motion to help her ear pain. So to all the parents, I would recommend just making sure you have something where they're drinking or chewing on takeoff, and then on um, landing.
Yeah, yeah, that's really smart. Kind of timing it to be for that takeoff and landing. Because I know that's tough. I mean, pretty much every flight I'm on, there's always some infant that is
Hmm.
crying at takeoff or landing, and
Yes.
it's hard because you can't really do anything about it. But I guess if you plan ahead, you can.
Yes, exactly. And it still might happen. Like one time we were flying to Hilton Head, and we didn't realize it at the time, but she had an ear infection. So no
Mhm.
amount of, chewing or drinking was going to make that pain go away. So we got to go to urgent care when we landed and got some antibiotics, and she was all good on the flight home.
Yeah, that's so tough. I was in middle school, I think. We were flying back from California, and I had gotten a swimmer's ear,
Oh
and
gosh.
I've never had so much ear pain in my life. It was the most miserable flight. Um, it was absolutely awful.
I know it makes you like feel for the kids when you've
Oh
experienced
yeah,
it yourself. You're like, oh, this is really bad.
yeah, it was not fun at all. And I mean, I've had as an adult, there's been a few times where it's been kind of painful, just just a normal flight, and it hurts, and
Hmm.
I get it.
Yep, exactly.
um, with with having a kid at the airport, do you try to maybe like separate yourself from other travelers? Do you always do the like early boarding kind of thing? Is there anything like that that you do?
Yeah, great question. So whenever we have a connecting flight, I will research ahead of time. I'll just Google real quick the airport code and then do they have a playground? Because it's a surprising number of at least airports across the United States have a little play area for kids where
Mhm.
it's removed, like you said, like it's farther away from busier gates, and there's usually some things to climb on, and they can be kind of loud and get out all the energy that kids just like exist with.
Yeah.
And so we definitely try to do that. We do take advantage of family boarding more so when she was in a stroller. Now we're not using a stroller in the airport anymore. But when we were, it was really great to be able to take the time to like unpack the stroller and then fold it down and leave it at the gate to be, packed under to gate check. It was nice to have that time and not feel like I was holding other people back. So we did take
Yeah.
advantage of family boarding then. Now we take advantage of family boarding because we're just a little bit slower getting on the plane and getting situated. I know some families say don't do that, don't get on early. Um, then that's what works for them because their kids don't want to be on the plane any longer than they have to be.
Hmm.
But for us, we like the ability to kind of unpack in our row and kind of get not feel rushed.
Yeah. 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 I see, both points there. I personally would prefer to be on there earlier. Just like you said, it gives you time. You're not feeling rushed. You're not holding up everyone else.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
feel a little bit less stressed.
Yes. Yes.
uh, I guess with that, do you usually get to the airport pretty early? Just because it might be a little bit slower getting through security and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I have global entry, which
Okay.
gives us TSA pre-check. So, and my husband
Mhm.
does as well. And for TSA pre-check, if you just have the pre-check, kids under 13 can come with you at no extra cost. And if you have clear, which we do have as well, clear, it's under 18 can come with you.
Okay.
So we actually don't get to the airport super early because we know that we'll be able to skip a lot of the security lines. And one thing about security that I will share is you are allowed to bring a lot through TSA if you have a child with you. So we bring applesauce, which is considered a liquid. When she was a kid or
Mhm.
when she was an infant, we brought, formula and milk through with water. But you do have to tell them that you have that in your backpack. And if you do remember to tell them, they will just swipe it real quick with whatever those swipes are.
Mhm.
And they won't make you like unpack it all. If you
Oh,
forget
that's nice.
to tell them, they will make you unpack it all. So make sure you remember. I have done that plenty of times. But
Right.
I think that pre-check is the best investment if you have kids because you don't have to take off your shoes. I mean, they don't ever have to take off
Mhm.
their shoes because they're so little, but you don't have to take off your sweaters. It's so nice to be
Could be
able to
one
go
less thing
through.
to think about.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Um, I will say that the first time we went through security where she was old enough to realize that I was taking away her little stuffed animal bear that she brings with her. Um, that was she was very upset that her little bear was being put through the security screening. So I will say, make sure you tell your kids what's about to happen because
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of with kids talking them through the whole process of what's about to happen. So even
Yeah.
now, she's like such a pro, but I remind her, Bear has to go through security. We're going to take 2 flights. When she was little, we would watch a video on YouTube of what like an airport was. When there was the mask requirement, we would practice wearing the mask beforehand. We would practice with headphones for her tablet. Like it can be really scary for kids traveling for the first time. And so the
Mhm.
more that they're comfortable with and the more they know what to expect, I think the better that their reactions are going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Just kind of preparing them. Like, here's what's going to happen. Walking them through it. Like, this is what to expect. I think that's awesome. They get that idea of, here's what we're going to do. That way, you're not just like, oh my gosh, my stuffed animal's gone, and
Yeah,
there's all these things happening, and I don't know what to do.
exactly. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Uh,
Sorry, one more tip that I'll share about
yeah,
TSA, if that's okay.
yeah.
So if you have a stroller that folds down and can fit through the X-ray machine, that's the best option because
Okay.
that's it. It just goes through X-ray. If you have a double stroller, I've seen, or like a wagon, I've seen really getting really popular, and it's too big to fold in and go through the X-ray machine, they will have to take it separately and search it and swipe it. So that would add
Mhm.
time. So if you're planning on traveling with a larger stroller, give yourself that time.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Good tip there. Um, yeah, I'm a big proponent of just traveling as light as you can and
Mm-hmm.
keeping it as small as you can so you can keep it all with you there and you don't have to worry about all the extra steps.
Exactly.
Especially as we saw with Southwest recently,
Oh, I
that can be a
know.
real issue.
I know all those bags.
Yeah, I saw one guy. There's a video of a guy who finally, after like a week, got his bag, and he was so excited, and everyone cheered for him.
Oh gosh, that is so. Oh, it makes me so sad.
Yeah.
We're big on team carry on. We were
Mhm.
before we did when it was just my husband and I. We did 2 weeks in Europe once with just a little 15-inch carry on each. So big fans of that. But when you have kids, obviously there's like so much more stuff you have to bring, like diapers and all that. So
Mhm.
we used to still do carry on, and then we would just buy diapers at the location. There's so many
Mhm.
delivery services now that'll just drop stuff off at your hotel or whatever, but I would highly recommend doing that so you don't end up like that with the bags.
Yeah, yeah, that's smart too. I like that. Um, yeah, I feel like with all the technology now, all the different companies out there, and just it's easy to, even if you do forget something or just want to plan to not bring something, you have options.
Exactly.
Um, so what have been, I guess, some of your favorite travel memories or moments with your family?
Yeah. So we do a lot of beach trips because that's the kind of vacationer that I am. But my husband is much more of an adventure person. So we try to balance those out. But one of my favorites was we went to Maui last year over spring break, and we took this glass bottom boat there, but it was like a submarine. So like the bottom half was underwater with glass windows,
Hmm.
and it was a really great way for us to still almost feel like we were snorkeling without actually snorkeling because my daughter obviously can't snorkel yet.
Yeah.
So that was a super fun. I feel like it was a great compromise between what we would want to do as adults versus what she would want to do, and it was just a
Mhm.
great time.
Yeah, I've done
Um,
that myself actually in Maui. That was actually a lot of fun.
oh yay, that's so cool. Was it yellow?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Oh, it might have been the same company. I'm trying
It
to
might have
remember what
been,
the
yeah.
company is now.
It was a long
That's
time
so
ago.
cool.
Yeah, it was probably over a decade ago now, at
Oh,
least.
wild. That's so
But
fun.
yeah, I remember it being an awesome time, and I loved Maui. That was a good family
Oh,
trip.
Maui is like, we've been to every island now except for Kauai,
Oh
and
wow.
Maui is, man, it's hard to beat. It's so pretty.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's a good time.
yeah. Another fun memory I have is we went to the Great Sand Dunes National Park this year,
Okay.
which is in, or I guess last year now, which is in, it's in Colorado, and it was so there's this just huge sand dunes in the middle of this mountain range, and you can rent a sled and you can sled down the sand dunes, and it was such a fun time to experience this kind of unique way of sledding than what we're used to
Mhm.
in Colorado, which is very snow based.
Yeah.
And so that was super fun. I would highly recommend that for kids just because they also don't get tired walking up the dunes like the adults do. We were exhausted, and she was having a great time.
Yeah, that's fun. It's actually really hard to walk up those dunes.
Yes, it really is. My poor calves were very upset at me.
That's funny. Have you built a community with other, traveling families out there?
Yeah, so I feel like I've built more of a community on Instagram with traveling
Mhm.
families, just because it's always great to see where they go and kind of what worked for them versus maybe they wouldn't do again. A lot of my like local families that we spend time with are still afraid of travel, so I try to kind of convert them to the travel lifestyle. But no, we haven't found any families that we can travel with locally yet.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I love about Instagram, especially is, you're just able to see other people who are doing the same thing as you. Maybe not the exact
Exactly.
same way, but maybe it gives you some ideas. But it's so fun. I mean, just through this podcast and through Instagram, I've met so many cool people from all over the world that are all traveling in all different ways, and it's just so much fun.
I agree. Yeah, I was listening to your Morocco episode on the podcast,
Mm,
and I just think that's so cool, like how all these people from across across different walks of life, but share a very similar love of travel, can, kind of come together and share their experiences. And I have to say, travel Instagram is so nice. I know
yes,
some parts of
yes.
Instagram are not friendly, but travel Instagram is really friendly.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I feel like the travel community, especially, is just very open and just very kind and welcoming, and everyone's super nice.
I agree.
Maybe it's because of all that traveling. You just
Yeah,
happy.
that's true. Everyone has such a great outlook that they're so happy to share.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna stick to that, and I'll go with that. Um, well, Kaylin, any other tips or tricks that you want to share? Anything that we missed?
Yeah, I would love to just share my number one tip for traveling with families is bring snacks. Kids love
Oh,
snacks.
right.
Make sure you have enough snacks. That's my biggest tip that I laugh about, but it's true. Bring the snacks, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Snack important.
I know. I love snacks, so I don't blame it. My daughter when she also wants to eat all the snacks while traveling.
Yeah, I feel like especially since COVID, I've noticed some places like some airports will shut down earlier, so they
Hmm.
don't have the options available for a quick meal or something. Um, and also, I mean, some of these flights are really some peanuts or pretzels or whatever they serve. Hard to go a 6 hour flight on just a few bags of pretzels.
Exactly. Yeah, we did a when we went to Maui, it was an 8-hour flight direct, which was awesome, but it also meant a long time without
Yeah.
food access. So we definitely like I it's her backpack is always like it has the tablet, headphones, and like a few coloring activities and things like that. And then my backpack is always the snack backpack full of snacks. And then my husband's backpack is like the, like laptops and, adult stuff, but
Yeah,
that's our strategy.
that's smart. Awesome. Well, yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, a lot of great tips and tricks for traveling with young kids, for using the points and miles. It really sounds like if you just do a little research, a little planning ahead of time, you can make the trip really great for a family.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to share?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate the time. I really enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I know the listeners will too.
Hey, thanks. And also thanks for showing such different perspectives on your podcast. I think that's super fun.
Yeah, it's fun for me. It's kind of selfish, but I just love sharing all the different types of travel and different backgrounds and all of that. So um, it's a ton of fun, and I'm happy to do it. Well, awesome, Kaylin. Thanks again for your time, and look forward to seeing you somewhere around the world soon.
Yeah, thank you. All
All right, I'll talk to you later.
right, bye.
Hey everybody, Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always check out every episode on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, and now Amazon Music as well. Just search for Our Travel Experiences on any of those platforms and it will pop up. You can also find everything all in one place on my website, ourtravelexp.com. And if you want to see my travel pictures as well as travel pictures from guests on the show, you can check them out on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And if you want to share your own pictures on the Instagram page or be a guest on the podcast, you can message me via that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to see your pictures and hear about your travel experiences, so please send them my way. And if that isn't enough for you, make sure to check out my weekly YouTube show, From Around the World Fridays. Every Friday, I'm taking 5 to 10 minutes to answer questions from listeners, share some souvenirs that I bought over the years, share my postcards over the years that I've accumulated, or share videos and pictures from one particular city or country that I visited, and so much more. So check it out, guys. You won't be disappointed. And make sure you go subscribe to that as well. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you somewhere around the world soon.